I'd like to call the City of Apache Junction work session of May 5th, 2025 to order and ask everyone to put their cell phones again on silent. Roll call.
Mayor Wilson,
Here.
Vice Mayor Schroeder.
Present.
Councilmember Cross,
Here.
Councilmember Heck,
Here.
Councilmember Johnson,
Here.
Councilmember Nesser,
Present.
Councilmember Soller.
Here.
You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. Presentation discussion by ADOT representatives. Rudy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very quickly, I'm Rudy Skias, the Development Services Director, and for the last couple of years, I have been working with ADOT and a consultant group on what's called the North-South Corridor Study. Emil and Ted from Public Works have also been part of this study. Basically, the intent of the study is to look at a new freeway corridor from US 60 down to, well, right now, the first segment is down to Arizona Farms Road, but eventually it's going to continue on down and hook up with the 10, I think around Coolidge, right around there. So it's been quite the project. It's gone on for a couple of years. There's still a lot more work to do, but our friends from ADOT and the consultant group are here today to give us an update on where we are, where we need to go, that kind of thing. So without further ado, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to introduce the ADOT team to come up and give you their presentation.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Cara Spinney. I'm Community Relations Project Manager for the Arizona Department of Transportation. We have some upcoming public meetings in May for the North-South Corridor study for this segment, so we really appreciate the opportunity to come speak to you tonight and give an update on the study. With me, I have some fellow study team members. Start with Nick.
I'm Nick Edwards, ADOT Project Manager.
Dina Whitaker, I'm with ADOT Environmental Planning.
And Rodney Bragg with AECOM.
Thank you, Cara. The map on the left here shows the north-south corridor, which extends roughly 50 miles from US 60 in Apache Junction down to I-10 in Eloy. In August 2021, the Arizona Department of Transportation issued the final Tier 1 environmental impact statement and record of decision, which identified the selected 1,500-foot wide north-south corridor. This represented a decision to move forward with the north-south corridor following many years of environmental and engineering study, as well as opportunities for public comment on the corridor alternatives. We are now conducting a Tier 2 environmental study and design concept report on segment 1 of the north-south corridor between US 60 and Arizona Farms Road. The study will further define the corridor to an approximately 400-foot wide freeway alignment, as well as identify the location of interchanges and other design features. ADOT will also be conducting a separate Tier 2 study on segment 2 of the north-south corridor between Arizona Farms Road and Interstate 10, which will be starting soon. This map shows the limits of the current study, which Rudy mentioned as segment 1, which extends approximately 20 miles from US 60 to Arizona Farms Road in the Florence area. The study will primarily be conducted within the selected 1,500-foot corridor, but may extend slightly beyond those limits at some interchange locations. The study will identify and evaluate various alignment alternatives within the corridor and ultimately identify a preferred 400-foot freeway alignment. The study will also identify and evaluate proposed interchange locations and interchange design concepts, as well as other features like bridges as part of the design concept report. The team will prepare a draft environmental impact statement and design concept report documents that will identify the preferred build alternative and evaluate environmental and engineering considerations. The preferred build alternative will be compared to a no-build or do-nothing alternative in the draft environmental document and design concept report for evaluation and public comment. ADOT will address the comments received on the draft EIS and DCR, and then prepare and release a final EIS and DCR, and issue a record of decision identifying the selected alternative for the corridor. The purpose and need for the overall north-south corridor between US 60 and I-10 was identified as part of the Tier 1 study, which includes improving access to future activity centers, improving regional mobility, improving north-south connectivity, integrating the region's transportation network, and addressing existing and future population and employment growth. ADOT identified and mapped constraints within the corridor that have various environmental and engineering considerations, and has identified preliminary alignment alternatives for the proposed highway in an attempt to avoid or minimize impacts. In the northernmost 16 miles of the corridor between US 60 and Roberts Road, ADOT has identified preliminary alignments that stay within the center and eastern zones of the study corridor. The new freeway would connect with US 60 and Apache Junction. South of US 60, between Baseline Road and Elliott Road, there's an eastern and a western alignment alternative. Similarly, between Germain Road and Ocotillo Road, there's an eastern and western alignment alternative. South of Elliott Road, the alignment transitions to the eastern side of the 1,500-foot corridor to avoid overlap with an existing power line and other sensitive environmental resources. South of Ocotillo Road, all build alternatives would create a new crossing of Queen Creek. There are a number of constraints mapped within and surrounding Queen Creek, presenting a variety of sensitive environmental resources. The preliminary alignment alternative crosses Queen Creek in the eastern side of the corridor. In the southernmost 4 miles of the corridor between Roberts Road and Arizona Farms Road, ADOT has identified 3 preliminary alignment alternatives that provide a range of alignments in the western, center, and eastern portions of the 1,500-foot corridor. All 3 preliminary alignments would require a new crossing of the Central Arizona Project Canal and use a similar crossing of the canal south of Judd Road, whose location was identified to avoid overlap with the Bureau of Reclamation land that serves as a western burrowing owl relocation site. All 3 preliminary build alternatives follow a similar alignment south of the CAP Canal, crossing to the study limits at Arizona Farms Road. Preliminary Alternative 1, shown in pink on the slide in the left graphic, is the closest to the Sonoyki Dike. Compared to the center and eastern alternatives, the western alignment would result in the largest overlap with the Bureau of Reclamation lands east of the canal that provide flood storage and wildlife habitat, but would minimize overlap with the planned developments near Judd Road. Preliminary Alternative 2, shown in green, uses the center zone through the reclamation lands east of the canal and is slightly farther away from the Sonoyki Dike, but closer to the planned developments near Judd Road. Preliminary Alternative 3, shown in blue, shifts to the eastern portion of the 1,500-foot corridor between Roberts Road and Arizona Farms Road. The eastern alignment is the farthest away from the Sonoyki Dike, would require the smallest amount of overlap with the reclamation lands east of the canal. However, the eastern alignment is closest to the planned developments north of Judd Road. The configuration of the preliminary build alternative is based on the previous US 60 alignment study and does not include a new interchange connecting the north-south facility to US 60. Rather, the preliminary concept would provide a direct connection between US 60 and the new State Route 505, where through traffic traveling eastbound on US 60 would be directed south along the new freeway near Goldfield Road. And the similar condition for traffic traveling northbound on the new State Route 505 would be directed to go westbound on US 60. One of the initial concepts includes keeping the existing portion of US 60 through Gold Canyon and constructing a new traffic interchange that would provide access to US 60 from the new north-south freeway, with the preliminary location near Houston Avenue. This is just one concept for the connection to US 60, and the team will continue to investigate this concept along with other concepts.
One second, excuse me, can you go back one more?
Sure.
Just so I heard this right, so you're saying if you're heading north on this 505 and you get to the 60, it'll only allow you to go west, you won't be able to go east?
It would basically just be a continuation. So if you're headed northbound, there'd just be a big left-hand curve and you'd be going.
Right. So there would be no access to 60 east from that point?
You could exit it, go at the Houston Avenue where the big purple diamond is and go right.
Gotcha.
And go over to the existing US 60.
Thank you.
The map on the right of this slide shows the menu of potential interchange locations along the corridor. We reviewed the potential interchanges mentioned in the Tier 1 EIS to inform the concepts for this Tier 2 study, and we have added a few additional locations to the list. This list represents a menu of potential locations, and I want to note that the locations may be slightly adjusted, and not all the locations may end up being recommended. We will continue working with the environmental and engineering teams and the local agencies to further vet these potential locations. These locations will be reviewed and refined as part of the current study, and design concepts will be developed at each location to evaluate potential configurations for the interchanges. As shown by the note at the top of this figure, we are currently issuing the notice of intent and preparing for public meetings. Following the completion of the comment period in June, ADOT will evaluate comments to refine the build alternatives and proposed project purpose and need for evaluation in the EIS process. The draft EIS will compare the refined range of build alternatives to the no-build alternative. The draft EIS and initial DCR will be published and made available for agency, tribal, and public review, and one or more public hearings will be held. After the draft EIS and initial DCR review period, ADOT reviews all comments received and will consider these comments in developing a final EIS and DCR. The final EIS and DCR will identify a preferred alternative, either a build or no-build alternative. A record of decision is prepared at the conclusion of the EIS process and documents the selected alternative, representing ADOT's decision on how to move forward with the proposed project. We anticipate the EIS and DCR process to be completed in early 2027. It's important to note that at each of these milestones, prior to the release of the final documents, we'll have opportunities for the public to review and provide input or comments. There is no timeline to construct the north-south corridor, as it is not currently funded for design or construction. Funding would need to be identified to advance the project design and/or right-of-way acquisition, and to be able to make a final decision or issue the record of decision on a north-south corridor segment 1 preferred alignment. And now I'll turn it back over to Cara.
As I mentioned previously, we have some upcoming public meetings in May. We have 2 in-person public meetings on Thursday, May 15th and Tuesday, May 20th. And then we have 1 virtual public meeting on Thursday, May 22nd. These meetings were advertised in a variety of ways, including a postcard mailer that was advertised to sent out to businesses and residents within 1 mile of the study corridor. We also published in newspapers, including the Arizona Republic. We sent out a Gov Delivery e-blast, a news release, and we've been posting on social media. We'll be asking the public to comment on the purpose and need as well as the preliminary alignments at these meetings. The comment period ends on June 10th. Until that day, the public can comment in a variety of ways, including attending the public meetings, going online to the study website and leaving a comment there, emailing us, calling us, or sending mail via USPS to the address listed on the screen. We appreciate the opportunity to come and present to you tonight, and now I will invite my colleagues back up here to answer any questions you might have.
Yes.
Question on when you were saying that there was potential for or one of the alternatives could be a no-build scenario. What would, after all this work, what would lead the group to say, oh, we're not going to do it? I mean, that seems like a whole lot of work to say, forget it.
Step up to the mic, please.
Yeah, come up to the
Come
mic.
up to the mic, please.
Oh, sorry, thank you. It's actually to help us compare if the north-south wasn't built, what would the condition be in the future? And that helps us identify, because of these conditions, if it wasn't built, then what do we need to address those issues and
So it wouldn't
concerns?
just be financial.
Financial as well as other environmental concerns or traffic conditions that might be on US 60 and other areas. So it really kind of gives us an idea, long-term, what is it going to be like if we didn't build the north-south
So are
facility?
you guys taking into account that all that land east of here that could readily be developed in the future?
Yes.
You're looking at that because
Yes,
that would,
correct.
could
And
make a
future local net-
significant impact.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Correct, yes, we are taking that into account. So we are working with the Arizona State Lands Department also. We're working with the town of Florence and Apache Junction, Maricopa Association of Governments, and private developers, just really getting a good idea of what they're all planning to do near-term future, as well as long-term, as much information as we have, as we can.
Thank you.
Yes.
So the segment 1 is priority over segment 2 at this time. All studies and all research is being done strictly on segment 1 right now, and nothing on segment 2.
No, segment 2 is being worked on also. It just started a little later than segment 1.
Okay, because I heard through some Pinell County representatives that there's been a substantial amount of money thrown towards segment 2, and that there's a major push for segment 2 to be built before segment 1.
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, thank you.
We are working on both segments at the same time. We just started the kickoff meeting for one of those, and they're going simultaneously, just at different rates. But as of right now, there's no construction plans timeline for either of them.
There's still no funding.
Right, I understand that, but at the same time,
That's one that's been worked on for the last 6 years. The vice mayor's been on Pinal Regional Transportation Authority. There's been 2 elections. One passed, and then a lawsuit, and then one did not pass. So those things will be a partnership with local, state, and federal as we work with you.
Anyone else?
Your Honor, can I just add how neat it is to have ADOT here with us, to talk with us, to interact? It's a really big investment when you think of 101, 202, 303, 505. You are, establishing that legacy and in fact staying in front of the curve and trying to get that 400-foot path or swath to be identified is a huge step for proper planning and good solid growth principles that you've had. So we appreciate your work on that, and we'll continue to, try to figure out that proverbial funding. But it's really good to have them here, and then have our community have an open house and give input and be aware of it. And I think it's also important the community to understand there's no timeline on construction until we figure out the funding as well.
And I personally want to express my thanks for coming in the aspect on it. This is one of the things that a lot of us in this area are looking forward to keep moving forward, because we know that it's going to affect the future growth of this entire area. And of course, this is going to also affect the state land and actually make their property actually worth more, considerably more in the aspect of it, because it's going to open it up for additional growth. So again, thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Okay, presentation, discussion on special event process. Liz and Riley.
Good evening. Whoa, Mayor Wilson, City Council, Liz Lingenbach, the Parks and Recreation Director. I have my gym voice, so I have to step away from the mic. With the purchase of the rodeo grounds and the increasing event attendance we've seen over the last several years, we, as a city, want to continue to think about how we can ensure safety, public safety, security, as well as enjoyment at the gatherings, also as we work to grow those events and work to attract more events to our city. Over the past several years, we have done a lot as a city to improve our special event processes. We outline that in our staff memo that's attached to this agenda item. But a few of those are, we have one point of contact at this point, Riley King, management analyst in the Parks and Recreation Department. Part of her role is a citywide role as a special event liaison. So instead of having two people, previously it was Al Bravo or former PIOs. They handled everything that was outside of parks and public spaces, whereas Parks and Recreation handled everything within our parks. So changing that role to be one person that works with everyone, so there's consistency and a little simplicity. That was established over the last year. Additionally, creating an interdepartmental events team to review and support events. So that's made up, and Riley will cover this in a few minutes, but many of our internal departments as well as outside agencies such as Superstition Fire and Medical District. And then creation of multiple resources that are designed for event planners so that they can learn the process, have a little bit of help as they navigate what does it really mean to create a major event in the community. So next on our list, so that's kind of what we've done over the last couple of years. We're super proud of the entire special events team, as well as the leadership that Riley has made in that regard. But our next thing is really looking at the special event ordinances that we have here in the city. Many of them are outdated. Some of them have laws or reference things that are now not legal according to state code. And so we want to take an opportunity to look at those, update them. We feel like there's a need for simplification. So the original ordinance was developed really more with business license in mind and not so much the rest of the special event processes. And so we just feel that it's time now to be looking at that with our team. That is a recommendation from the special event team to take a look at this. Really tonight, we're here to just introduce that idea to you. Riley's going to come up and share a little bit about the current special event process, as well as what we'll be looking at in the special event ordinance. We really are here tonight to just gauge your interest in us continuing with those efforts, to get your feedback, and then we'd be bringing it back to future meetings, and Riley will cover a few of those as well as when she comes to present. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Riley King, and we'll take questions afterwards once she's done.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Liz said, I'm Riley King, Management Analyst for Parks and Recreation. I am going to walk you through our current process that we have. So we created a special event task force that is comprised of Public Works, the Police Department, City Clerk's Office, Superstition Fire and Medical, and then Parks and Rec. So to host an event, we have people fill out an event application, and so that just gives us an overview of their event. That helps the task force decide what safety measures are needed, if any are needed, what the city can do to help that event. So after they turn it in, they go through overview, and our task force will look over that application. They'll get me questions, concerns. I will bring it back to the event applicant, get their answers, and then take it back to the task force. We will also invite the event host, if it's a large event, to come to our task force meeting to where they can talk with all of us in the same room, get questions answered as fast as we can. And then once all that happens, departments will give their approval and what is needed for that event to be held. So resources to host an event. So I created about a year ago an event handbook. So it helps guide you through the entire process. It shows you how to fill out an application. And any question you may have, I tried to put it in there so that they would have the answer. And then also I am a big resource, so I will meet with any event organizer and help walk them through the process, answer any questions, and assist helping them fill out their application if needed. So as Liz stated, our current ordinance lives in Article 8-8, so it's for community and civic events, and this really focuses on the business license aspect of an event. It does not focus anything else on event safety, what's required for porta-johns, fencing, lights, anything like that. And so some of the challenges we face as the task force is this ordinance actually references a permit that we don't actually have. If you rent a space in the park, we have a permit for that and you get issued that permit, but not off city property, we do not have a permit that we issue for them. It lacks language that we need to enforce our special event guidelines and rules. So if somebody wants to host something and they don't want to have PD there for safety or fire there for EMS, it lacks the language for us to enforce them to actually have those. And as Liz stated, some of the language is really outdated, and a lot of the state laws has changed, so they don't match. So after researching our market cities and several others surrounding us, these are some of the reasons why we think special event ordinances are important for public safety. So it ensures large events will have the proper security, emergency plans, and safety measures to keep the attendees and staff safe. It protects our public spaces to help make sure that they are used correctly and ensure proper cleanup. It enhances event quality and organization, so it ensures that each event is well planned and meets our community standards. It minimizes public impact, so to the surrounding residents and businesses, so they're impacted as less as possible. It reduces our risk and liabilities to make sure that the safety standards are followed and that event insurance is got. It helps us manage the traffic and road closures to keep traffic flowing smoothly and reduces disruptions to the surrounding businesses. And then it helps create a clear and consistent process for approving events to ensure fairness to everybody. So here are some other cities who have special event permits and ordinances. The ones on the left have both an ordinance and a permit that are required. The ones on the right they only have a permit, they do not have an ordinance that goes with it. Queen Creek is currently working on their ordinance right now also, though. So our next steps, we are going to come back to a later meeting for a direction to staff, where I will bring back Market City research, and then I can tell you our needs and gaps that we have. If directed by you guys, we will bring back our code changes, and then from there, we would have a public hearing this summer to adopt new and revised ordinances. That is all I have, but I can answer any questions that you guys have.
Yes.
Riley,
Hi, Peter.
the special event task force and the process, is that going to be utilized for special events only on city-owned property, or is it any special event?
So it is any special event that meets our requirements to what is considered a special event.
So if there was a chamber or a business, they would have to follow the same protocol?
Yep.
Good.
And our city departments also follow the exact same protocol if we are hosting an event.
Very good. Thank you. That, I think, will bring, that consistency you're talking about is very important, because but if private businesses were not held accountable, I think that's where we can run into some challenges. So, thank you.
Your Honor,
Yes.
are we looking to change eight ordinance or create new? What would be, I mean, it's 6 in 1 kind of thing? You know, either just tweak the original ordinance now or just start from scratch?
We are looking to create an ordinance under the Parks and Recreation Department to encompass all special events, not just the business licensing. So it would be removing 8-8 and putting it all under Parks and Recreation.
Yes.
Couple different questions. Are these the only cities? You know, when I look at, I don't see Chandler on there.
So
They don't have any ordinance or permit?
So we did our market cities, and then we did the cities that are closest to us. So Mesa's not a market city, but it's right up against us. Queen Creek right up against us. I can definitely go back and look at other cities if you want. I just took market cities and then a few that were around us, so we had some baseline information, but I can go and look at as many cities as you would like me to.
Right. And so, are you looking to have every single event, whether it be a private event or say, a public event at the rodeo grounds? They would be required to have police and EMS on staff or on hand?
No, so right now, how it works is if they meet a certain criteria, if an event meets a certain criteria, then it would trigger police to say, you're serving alcohol and you have X amount of people, we would require you to have off-duty officers. Same with EMS. You have 5,000 people, it's 100 degrees out, we would recommend you have EMS. We do that right now. So in this ordinance, it would be the exact same thing. So not every event that comes through requires PD, requires fire, requires anything from Public Works. A lot of it, they look at and they say, yep, you're good to go. We approve it with nothing.
So this would not affect something like Handlebars having music
Nope.
outside for a couple hours?
Nope, they would
quiet?
have to meet the criteria that considers it a special event in the first place. And then we also have standards that it would trigger for a PD to say, oh, you have this many people. Normally PD is looking for a certain amount of people. If there's alcohol, stuff like that, that's what triggers PD to look at something. Same with EMS, the amount of people, the weather conditions, what you're doing. So bull riding, they require EMS at because it's high risk. But a concert in the park, we don't require EMS because they can respond, not high risk.
Yes.
I actually work in Mesa and deal with this on a pretty much monthly basis. We have events all the time. And I absolutely think this is the right direction to go. You have to have all the players at the table, set your criteria, then you can hold people accountable to make sure that they have the proper things in place when you have an event. As we can see nowadays, any event can be attacked. I mean, driving cars into people, all kinds of things. So you definitely want to have the bigger events that you're going to have a lot more people. You're going to want to have your police, EMS, everything set up in advance because unfortunately we live in a society now that sometimes people do really horrendous things to crowds.
Yes.
So I really like where you're going with this.
Thank you.
Yes.
So Riley, how will you be made aware of a private business that is looking to have a special event? I mean, I know there are cases where if they're looking for an extension of premises for alcohol or something, you'd probably be aware of that internally. But if someone wasn't looking to do that, how would you find out about it?
So I have been meeting with a lot of our businesses that host events. So Harley Davidson is one that they host events all the time. The VFW, I've met with them. So I've been trying to reach out to our businesses in our community to let them know that we have a process now that we would like them to follow to kind of help. And a lot of them are all for it. They want safety. They want to make sure they're doing the right things. If we don't know about an event and we find out about it, right now it's education. I go to them, I talk to them about their event. If it was passed, then I tell them what to do in the future, the process. So it's really trying to educate, reaching out to them, seeing how we can help. We want to assist them so they can have a safe event. We want events to happen in our city.
You know, I recognize that was probably happening because there was that event at the Harley Davidson on Saturday, and the mounted rangers had to be there for a longer period of time. And that came from the city, not from the Harley Davidson dealership. Yeah. So.
Yep. So they're working through the process with us, and they've been great to work with. So.
Perfect. Thank you. Good.
One last question.
Okay.
I think Liz mentioned that we don't meet parts of state law right now. Example?
I think the food truck.
So I'll just share. So we have certain rules. So when the state updates their laws, sometimes it's just backtracking of they've changed a law that then supersedes what we have existing. And so there were several food truck laws. We follow those now. Our code just doesn't show it. So for example, the state law made it so that food trucks does not have to have a special permit to be in a public park, for example. We used to be able to dictate that they'd have to have permission or a special permit to be able to set up there. Now, we have a little bit of, what I want to say, regulatory powers of saying you can only take certain amount of spaces, maybe a duration of time if we have other events going on there, but we do have to allow them. And so in our code, it's just not been caught up yet to what the state code says. So that's one example.
Thank
Your
you.
Honor. So I'm not well-versed in this, but wouldn't state just trump city anyways? So regardless what our code says, if that's the new law. that's-
Absolutely. But it causes a little bit of confusion if people are just looking at our law, or even staff, whenever they're new and coming in, they might be looking at our code. And so we really want, when we have an opportunity to look at other things, to go ahead and make those match up a little bit more closely. So absolutely.
So I guess this might be for Joel, I don't know, but when these laws, because they love passing new laws. Absolutely, they do it several times a year. Just, the staff always need council direction to update our ordinances according to the new laws that are passed? Could you just do it?
That's a great question. Mayor and members of council, vice mayor. Actually, there is a standalone resolution in the city that says if you want certain legislation done, it takes 4 of you to direct staff to do it. And that came in the 1980s. So technically, yes, it would take that kind of direction. However, I have the ability to also bring it to you, saying, okay, this has changed, we would like to do this. I would still need direction to staff, however. Now, for the food truck thing, yeah, we're absolutely, in fact, certain laws say, cities and towns, you are preempted from doing anything in the area that we act. So when that happens, even, it doesn't matter what our code says, doesn't matter what we put in place, we are preempted. And if we try to go over that, we will get in trouble from the state. So there are certain laws where we just, our code is wrong. There was one on loitering, for example. We still have that on the books. We haven't looked at that in years. I think that probably became illegal in the 1990s, early 90s, and that hasn't been taken off. So there's a lot in the code that probably needs to be fixed. But when it comes to special events, I did bring to the council 25 years ago a special event ordinance. And at the time, it looked good, but then certain council members didn't want to do it, and it just died. So I did try to change the special event ordinance a long time ago, and it was actually for the police department because they really needed some assistance at that time.
So is there something we can put into place that gives you guys the authority to, when a law is changed, to go ahead and just do it? But only in those circumstances, right? So when they
You
come
still
in-
have to pass an ordinance, the council would still have to pass an ordinance to do it under the law. So we would still have to bring it to you. And we have done that many, many times where we do change laws. This one would be pretty easy because we would probably strike out parts of Chapter 8 and then relabel it and put it in Chapter 15. So it's not too difficult to do. It just takes time. And you do need at least one public hearing. And if there's any fees, you do have to follow the 60-day notice of intent. You have to do that also. Another little thing the state put in back in 2016, I believe.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to avoid playing catch-up all the time. I mean, if we could just find a way, I mean, if it's gotta come to us, it's gotta come to us, but let's, like, as soon as this law gets passed, bring it. I mean, let's not wait until it's necessary or it's something we want to change. Let's just bring it and do it.
Well, part of the problem is the state likes to play with certain things every year. Development fees is a very good example. They play with that for 4 years in a row. So even if we had changed the law, it would have been changed the next year by the state. And so, yes, you can do that, but you're chasing the tail, basically. always with the state. Now, food trucks, that was a lobby that came from Phoenix, because Phoenix had some really strict rules. And some lobbyists got to the state legislature, and that changed every city in town. And then they put a preemption statute in there that says, you have to follow these rules. We don't care what cities and towns do. These are the rules that we will allow you to do.
Yes.
What kind of fees are you looking to implement?
So those will be some of the things that Riley will bring back to the group. So tonight, again, is just to hear if there's support for us to move forward, and we'll be coming back for direction to staff. But we have been doing a lot of research. So Eli in the city manager's office, the special event task force, they've all shared, other Market City data. And so we'll be bringing back and just sharing some of that information so you can see what those fees are like. Our intent would not be to have new fees per se. It might be looking at combining some. So for example, right now for the business licensing, it depends on whether you're a community, and I don't want to go into too much detail yet, but a community event versus a civic event means paying a different business vendor license fee. And so it might just be looking at how we combine those or make it so that it's, one simple fee versus charging a whole bunch of different fees. We'd be bringing those back and seeing what you were interested in having as part of that. If there's any, as of now, we don't have any major intent of adding fees for special event processes.
Good.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just add one thing. Another thing that happens is sometimes there's an issue like homelessness, for example, or camping. So the state had certain laws, and that was overridden by the Ninth Circuit. And then it took time to get to the Supreme Court. So had we changed the law to model what the Ninth Circuit said, that changed with the U.S. Supreme Court, and it went back to before the Ninth Circuit handled that matter. So that's why we don't always chase the high volatile types of laws where we think it's going to change in court, or it could. So that's another explanation.
And Joel, if I could add, so Joel creates the list of all the changes through the legislature to departments. I think you guys all get a copy as well. And so, just as we said before, when we see that they've made a change, we do change our practices. Whatever supersedes the law is whatever is the highest level that we need to follow is what we follow. And then we change that code when there's an opportunity or when we know that it's going to be sticking, basically.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Riley.
Presentation, discussion on resolution number 25-08. JC?
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Tonight, I'm going to speak to you about Resolution 25-08. It is an intergovernmental agreement with Arizona Department of Water Resources for the contribution to the maintenance and operation of the Arizona Continuously Operating Reference Station Network. It's a mouthful. So, AZCORS is a permanent site that transmits real-time coordinate information over the internet. It's pretty cool technology. We can receive that information with one of our GPS receivers and receive real-time, highly accurate locations of where we are. And then you can see here the equipment at one of these sites below. This is actually at Usery Mountain Regional Park, but it consists of a mounting pole, GPS receiver, antenna, and then a cellular router, and then some other associated electronics. So in Arizona, this program is managed by the Arizona Department of Water Resources. They manage and operate all of the core sites in Arizona. There's 42 managed by the state, 12 that are managed by EarthScope, and then 3 by the National Park Service. So we've been utilizing this technology since about 2020, and it's become like a critical asset to our data collecting. So as far as the intergovernmental agreement, we were approached by ADWR because we're a user of the technology about, entering into this agreement, and we agreed on contributing $5,000 annually to support this program. And then in return, we will continue to have our access to the CORS network, and then we'll receive technical support on any data-related issues that we may have. So, like I said, the benefits of this is, access to this information, having accurate, real-time coordinate information in the field is critical to our mapping efforts. And I'll give you one example that this just happened this year, where we went out and we did some data collecting on some pool boxes, and then a concrete contractor came in and put a nice sidewalk right over top of it. So we were called out. We were able to go out to the exact location of where the pool box was under the concrete, mark it while the utility contractor was still on site, and then they were able to identify the location and then continue their work by removing the concrete. And then the contractor had to come back and replace those panels. And so if we didn't have that accurate location of that box, it might have been days before we were able to actually identify where it was supposed to be located. So that's just one example of the information that we're collecting and how critical it is to know exactly where they are on the ground. So participating in this program, helping fund this program will help build new CORS sites. So I believe from when we first started working, they've already went live with 6 new sites in the last month. They're going to be replacing outdated equipment, hopefully improving the network stability for their users, meaning less downtime for us. We did have some issues in the past where the sites might be down, and we don't know when they go down. So I'd have one of my staff members out in the field, and then it would just stop working. So since ADWR has taken over ownership of this program, we've had 0 downtime. We can go out anytime during the day, do our data collecting, and have had no issues. And they're great to work with, really responsive if we have any questions or any issues that we're experiencing. So this item is on the May 20th consent, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I only have one curiosity question. How did ADWR be the agency that got selected? Because when I went last night online and looked up CORS to educate myself a little bit, and I'm reading, and for the longest time I couldn't figure out how people dealing with water got control of this.
It's a division of ADWR. It's their land surveying division, but it was actually originally managed by ADOT for a long time. And I believe that, I don't know if they just didn't have the funding or the support to manage it. And in the last, I guess, few years, ADWR took it over. So I don't really have a good answer for you as to why they did, but I know that they've been doing a lot of great work and updating this program.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Presentation, discussion, and presentation of 5-year update of the development fee study. Sydney.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Kelsey Shatnick. I'm a planner on staff, and tonight I'm here to begin our development fee update process. So just for some background, state statute requires that the development fee study, land use assumptions, and infrastructure plan be updated every 5 years. Ours was last updated in August of 2022, so we are right on track for that next update. This project will also include an update to Volume 2, Chapter 7, Development Fee Ordinances. So what are development fees? So they're a one-time fee imposed for new development, and they are used to fund infrastructure and services impacted by growth. So this would go towards parks and rec, streets, police, and library. It ensures that growth pays for growth rather than burdening existing taxpayers, as well as ensuring maintenance of current levels of service throughout the community. So why now? So current fee structure is outdated. Again, the last update was in 2022. Cost of infrastructure has significantly increased throughout the last few years. There have been significant development changes since the last update and the possibility of the risk of underfunding critical infrastructure. So for the fee study update, it's standard practice that the city hires an outside consultant to be the lead for this project. So tonight we're here to get your support in securing a contract with Tischler Bice, who has helped the city with this process for the past few cycles, and they're also very involved with other Arizona communities, helping them through this process. So as our consultant, they would review existing fee structures. They would analyze infrastructure needs and costs, benchmark fees against peer cities, and a benefit of having an outside consultant is that they can be objective throughout the process. They're experts in finance, planning, and law, and then they can help the city with stakeholder engagement as well as transparency throughout this entire process. So goals of the update would be to comply with legal requirements, to align fees with actual costs, ensure fairness and consistency, support sustainable plan growth, and enhance capital planning and budget accuracy. So this entire process, start to finish, will take probably over a year to complete, with an estimated completion time in October of 2022, which would ensure that we would meet all of our required deadlines. This process would include data collection, stakeholder engagement, analysis and recommendations, multiple city council work sessions and public hearings, city council review and adoption, as well as a few different mandatory waiting periods throughout that process. So again, it brings us to completion probably around October of 2026. And Tischler Bice has provided us with a fee of $67,440. And I just wanted to note that this is a fixed fee. So with that, staff is recommending that City Council approve the professional service agreement with Tischler Bice and authorize the initiation of the development fee update process. So next step, this professional services agreement with Tischler Bice would be on the consent agenda for approval on May 20th, 25. That would essentially, signing that contract would kick off the beginning of the study and give Tischler Bice a green light to kind of gather all the information they need. And then we would anticipate they would, a representative from Tischler Bice would be here in late fall, early winter to provide a very detailed overview of the development fee update process as well as their initial findings. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yes.
More of a statement. For once, there's not a contingency fee, huh? Yahoo.
Your Honor, I got a question.
Yes.
Hi, Kelsey. Absolutely necessary. I'm just curious, when it comes to consultants, or not that it makes a difference, but I mean, there are grants out there that will specifically pay. They're designed so you can hire, cities can hire consultants. Is this funding coming through any sort of grant, or is this something that is just in your budget?
This would come out of the development services fee budget. It's something that we would that we're actively planning for, so that would come out of our budget.
So, just a thought. I would like to recommend, if you guys are in the habit of applying for grants, when it comes to things like consultants, let's try to do that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, Matt, can we just double check this? Because in the past, we definitely need to do that, but I want to double check on Tischler Bice. When we actually write the check, will it be from the general fund, the HERF fund, or development fee revenue fund?
Development fee fund.
So growth actually gets to pay for growth consultants.
Correct.
I just want to make sure it's very clear for the public.
How the state law.
Then that is
is
because of
allowed
state
for.
law. So it is under their budget, but it isn't, these dollars do not compete for general fund dollars or street funds. This actually comes from the development fees revenue. So growth is paying for the development fee.
Sure, but I'm just saying there
And we
are programs out there that
Yeah.
will specifically
Exactly.
allow you to use them for things like consultants.
Absolutely, yeah.
And, I mean, consultants have always been kind of a
Yeah.
hot topic for me, because it's like, you know, that's why you are the professionals here, right? To be able to work these things out instead of always having to hire somebody to tell you what to do. And if, in some cases, that's what has to happen, that's fine, but
Right.
let's try to get that for free. AZ Smart Grant, look into that. It's an ADOT program. They literally will give you money that you can hire consultants with.
Great.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will adjourn our work session. Thank you.